Came about, and we're in a different place today, but there is a lot of work to be done. And as a police officer, I got to tell you that I saw many heroic things, and wonderful police officers. And unfortunately, I saw disgraceful things as well. And I make no apology to the police community when I say that there is a need to change, and there is a need to fix intrinsic problems and reflection of how the police community conducts itself. And I also, as a person of color, make no apology to our community when I say there is a need for us to reflect. And there is a need, in addition to personal accountability on the part of the police department, there is also a need for personal accountability in our community. It is ironic that today, these communities and the community of color in the same exact situation. We see the police saying, this is overreaction, our hands are being tied, the reaction to this is bad, it's overreacting. We have the community of color saying, there is an overreaction in the way the law is applied against people of color. We have police officers saying, good police officers should not be judged by the actions of a few. And yet we have a historic history and memory of being judged by the actions. And so it is incumbent that any solution and that any change come about by these two communities of common interest sitting at the table and talking to each other, not at each other. We have to find solutions to the intrinsic problems because, my friends, in the 60s, we had a civil rights movement. Many of us lived through it, and we were out on the streets with signs, and change came about. But racism, my friends, has changed. It is rarely somebody coming up to you saying the N-word or the S-word. Today, my friends, racism is done with a calculator. In that calculator, where the sum total is always the same in inequity against our community. And we're still marching on the streets with signs. That's right. The same way racism has morphed, we must morph in the way that we deal with racism. And we have to understand, and the police have to understand, that their enemy is not the community of color. That their enemy are these disgraceful police officers who do things that create a reaction that sometimes ties their hands. The community of color needs to understand that our enemy, per se, is not the police. But our enemy, many times, are those involved in unlawful actions within our community. Black on black crime, Hispanic on Hispanic crime. And that we as a community have to have the resolve to change that. You know, if I were to come to you and tell you that the KKK was planning a march on Albany Avenue, what do you think would happen? Do you think they would make it 2 blocks? This community would stand up. And perhaps we should not allow them to march not 1 or 2 blocks, not even step foot here. That's right. But you know, I did a little research, and the last time the KKK hurt anybody in Abbeville was in the 50s. But gangs have hurt people every day. Yes, we would prevent the KKK from marching, but we have not gotten the resolve to police our own and to change that culture within our community. It's incumbent on us as well to bring about that change. And you know, as a community of color, we many times are restricted by our own feeling that we are powerless, because historically we have felt that. We have felt that it's difficult to provoke any change, especially when we see videotapes and we see things that are clear as day. Yet we see the spin coming out and people saying that because somebody was able to squeak out, I can't breathe several times, that means he can breathe. When we see that, we feel powerless. We feel, how can we change this? We have historically felt powerless. But I submit to you that we do have it in our hands to bring about change. And that throughout world history, People who have had no power have been able to have an impact in the world. So I submit to you that we do have it in our hands. When we look at history, I'm about to get the hook by the guys from the Apollo. We see people like Mahatma Gandhi who had no worldly possessions talk about peaceful protests and change the way that we promote change. We had the young people in this country here. Young people who normally are not a strong electorate, normally can't provoke change, they're the ones with signs in their hands who are able to end the Vietnam War. We had Martin Luther King with a Bible in his hand, was able to start a civil rights movement. Jesus Christ with 2 nails in his hands, changing humanity. Incumbent on us to change the intrinsic problems in the police department and to change ourselves. Please, everybody, raise your hands. Repeat after me. I have it in my hands. To bring about change. I have it in my hands. To improve our community.